My name is Colin Dunne, and I am here performing at the Panorama Festival. I performed last night, and now tomorrow I go to Brasilia to perform there for 3 shows. And
can you describe a little bit the show that you presented here?
I live in Ireland. My whole background in dance is in traditional Irish dance. In the last 10 years I've been working in a slightly different way, I suppose, working within the context of contemporary dance, and moving in one direction, I suppose, away from what people normally think traditional dance is. And I suppose this show is really a conversation between the direction that I am going and the world that I have come from.
And how do you find it? You know, because actually I saw you performing the solo, and there is this kind of a smooth finding or this transition. How are you finding that transition?
From the traditional world to now it's very different. I mean, this was I suppose the transition, as you call it, started about 10 years ago. So at first it was very confusing. You know, the body of the traditional Irish dancer is very, like many forms of dance, you're trained in a particular kind of way, and you get to a point in your life where you still want to dance, but you want to maybe shake off your technique and see what is beyond that. And but you know, even for on a basic level, you know, my body was not kind of equipped to move in the way that a contemporary dancer's body does move. Everything I always did was from the legs down, and suddenly I was having to connect with all sorts of parts of my body that I didn't know existed. So, you know, so there's the physical side, and then I suppose the more aesthetic side. You know, I mean, traditional dance in the last 15 years has been presented in very large commercial shows with big production values, with 24 dancers and
spectacular lights.
And you know, and I was looking or hoping even 10 years ago to create something a little bit more intimate, a little bit more meaningful, rather than just giving an exhibition of your skill. And so
even your show is very spectacular in a way.
You think?
Well, like it has at least. Well, it's not the spectacularity that we might be accustomed to, but you know that you're using really good amplifying technologies and sampling, also amplifying the shoes.
Yeah, I mean,
plus even the adapting the screens to the size when you were moving the boxes. Yeah, that is a really high tech.
Well, it's high. Yeah, I mean, yes, there is a lot of technology in the show. I hope that in a way, although the show relies on that technology, that the technology is not at the forefront. Exactly. So it's a very, I would hope that it's still a very human performance, but the technology supports that. So the technology is under the surface in some way.
But you have that moment that you reveal it, and you know, in the same show that you can show, hey, you know, this is actually how we always have done it, even when I was little. You know, amplifying.
Well, no, I mean, the use of radio microphones is quite a new thing, and you know, I mean, again, in a lot of the large commercial shows, and I'm not revealing any big secret here, but a lot of the sounds of the dancers was pre-recorded along with the music. Because the technology to get 24 people sounding very good didn't exist. So, and obviously part of this was wanting to reveal more of the authenticity about the sound, or some of the dynamics in sound, which are normally lost if you're playing in a theater to 5,000 people. So the use of the microphones and the other technology was just playing with that.
And also the degrees of intimacy that I felt that suddenly when you start, you know, dancing with your bare feet, and suddenly it's like this other sound that takes you almost like to a naked body.
Right.
It's very, very.
Well, I'm not
eerie.
naked.
No, but it's like it's really eerie. You know, like the sensation of you get really close.
Right.
To this person.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I mean, listen, like any form of dance or any form of art, I mean, traditional Irish dance is very limited in what it can do. I mean, probably more limited than a lot of other forms of dance. So, you know, I was really trying to pull it apart and see, well, what is in there and what can I pull out? And first of all, what can I pull out that is of interest to me, and that might be of interest to an audience? luckily the things that were of interest to me, I think have been interesting for an audience. But
I saw the kind of really amazing influence of improvisation, you know, like perhaps because, you know, like it feels like, you know, even if the patterns are not so many, you know, it's an improvisational practice, you know, the taps and how you hold the rhythms, you know, it gives you some kind of improvisational range.
Well, I mean, I'd say 50% of the dance in the show is improvised, and particularly when I'm in shoes, I find it, for me, I mean, normally when you learn Irish dance, you learn a series of steps and you practice those steps until they're perfect. For me, when I put the shoes on, it is like picking up an instrument, or like picking up a drum. And a drummer does not decide, am I going to hit my right arm first or my left stick? You know, you just play and you feel something. And so I tend not to choreograph when I'm in shoes. Without shoes, I tend to be more conscious of use of space or rhythm or timing, whatever it might be, or what is the choreographic idea. In shoes, it tends to be more improvised because it's like picking up an instrument, and so you play that instrument. And I think for a time I did try to be more choreographic in the shoes, but then it just felt too neurotic because when you're wearing those shoes, really it's about rhythm and it's about sound. And that's not to say that improvisation is not a valid form of choreography. It is, but yeah, I prefer to improvise when I'm in the shoes.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting. And also how in this show you introduce a lot of autobiographical elements. So that is something like it really takes you when you reveal something. And you're like, and everybody in the audience was like,
Is this the video when I'm 10 years old?
Yes, that's a moment. I didn't want to say it.
No.
But it's a moment that everybody was like,
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of discussions during the creative process with myself and the director, Sinead Rush, and the other creative people as well, because it's a very, you know, I'm 10 years old. It's very nice to see someone who is older now dancing when they're 10.
Very good recording.
And then I kind of speak, and that's very cute, and it's kind of funny and hysterical. But I didn't want to just put that piece of film in the show if it was only going to be cute.
Yes.
To me, I think there's quite a sinister element to that film. To see someone who's 9 or 10 years old already being able to do this thing and being called a world champion. And what are you supposed to do after 10 years old? So for me, I made the show when I was 40, and so there was 30 years in between then and now, and there's been a lot of shit and water under the bridge, so I mean, it is cute and people laugh and find it funny and sweet, but I think it's also there as a kind of I think there's something a little bit darker about that piece of film as well.
Well, you know, thank you very much. You know, I think that you really allow us to kind of get hooked with with the rhythm, but also with this intriguing elements of sensibility and strength and roughness, and it was really
roughness.
Yeah, you're rough.
That's good.
Rawness. Rawness.
Yeah.
And I think that's really compelling.
Okay, well, thank you. Thanks very much. Thank you, Rio.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.